What I am about to share with you, I share as an aid to study. It is not a prophecy, it is something to consider and watch just what, if anything, takes place in the coming days. Many people come on the scene today and claim to be a prophet or seer, one who can tell what is going to happen. More often than not, their predictions fall flat. So what I offer is not a prediction as such, it is an anomaly that I find very interesting. At the moment, that's all it is, very interesting. The coming days and years will prove whether what I offer here has any validity at all. As many will know, numbers are very important to biblical scholars and to the ancient writers of the Bible. One such number is 50. After 49 years were completed and Israel entered the 50th year, certain things were due to occur, such as the releasing of debts and so on. Notice, it is after the 49th year, not after 50 years, these and other things were due to take place. So certain events were to take place during the 50th year. In Leviticus we read, "And ye shall hallow the 50th year, and proclaim liberty throughout all the land, unto all the inhabitants thereof. It shall be a jubilee unto you, and ye shall return every man unto his possession, and ye shall return every man unto his family." Notice it is a time when the land is liberated, and those to whom it rightfully belongs return to it. I found it fascinating, to say the least, when I began to study this in light of us now living in what many believe to be the last days prior to the physical return to earth of Jesus Christ. The Bible predicts in several places the Jewish people would return to their ancient homeland in the last days, or end of days. So let's spend a few minutes looking at the 50-year cycle in light of Israel and the Jews' return. The first date we look at is 1897. In 1897, the very first Zionist conference was held in Basel in Switzerland, with a view to finding a homeland for the scattered Jewish people who had been spread around the world since their expulsion from the land of Israel by the Roman armies in 235 AD. It was only after this expulsion the Romans renamed the land Syria Palestina, or Palestine. That is how Palestine got its name. In Jesus' time, the word Palestine, or the name Palestine, would never have been known. So let's take the year 1897 as our start date. 1897, the very first Zionist conference looking for a homeland for the Jewish people. (1897) plus another 50 years equals 1947. In 1947, the newly formed UN voted in favour of a homeland for the Jews in Palestine. If we add 50 years to 1947, we come to 1997. In 1997, the first ever Pan-Arabic conference with a view to recapturing the land was held. This is very interesting. Every 50 years a major conference regarding the Jewish people and their homeland. But did you notice? The first conference was held by Jews. The second conference was held by the Gentile nations. The third conference was held by all the Arab nations. 3 major conferences held by 3 distinct groups: Jews, Gentiles and Arabs. Each one taking place exactly 50 years apart, during that 50th year. But there is something very similar regarding the city of Jerusalem. Our start date here is 1917, where after 500 years of Turkish rule, Palestine was captured by the British toward the end of the First World War. 1917, the Ottoman Empire falls and Great Britain takes control of Palestine. General Allenby, who was a Christian, walked into Jerusalem rather than on horseback. So if we add 50 years to 1917, we come to 1967. In 1967, the Six-Day War took place when Israel captured the old city of Jerusalem for the very first time in over 2,000 years. There is a sequence here. The First War, Gentiles capture Jerusalem. 50 years later, a second war, Jews capture Jerusalem. Two major wars in which the centre prize is Jerusalem, each war 50 years apart. The first, the Gentiles capture Jerusalem. The second, the Jews capture Jerusalem. 1897 plus 50 equals 1947, plus 50 equals 1997. 1917 plus 50 equals 1967. So, to recap, 1897, the first Jewish conference to find a homeland. 50 years later, 1947, the UN votes to give the Jewish people a homeland. 50 years later, 1997, all the Arab states meet together in a conference with regard to taking and recapturing the land the Jewish people now call their home. And in 1917, there is a war, and Jerusalem is captured by the British. 50 years later, 1967, there is a war, and the Jews recapture Jerusalem. But there is now another anomaly. All of these events run in a 20 and 30 year cycle, one after the other, 2030, 2030. 1897 plus 20 equals 1917, plus 30 equals 1947, plus 20 again equals 1967, plus 30 equals 1997. If the pattern holds true, the next date is 2017, which is 20 years from 1997, but strangely enough is exactly 50 years from the Six-Day War of 1967. So you would have 1917, a war in which Jerusalem is captured, 50 years later, a war in which Jerusalem is captured, and then 50 years later, 2017, perhaps another war where Jerusalem is captured. We have seen 3 major conferences, but only 2 major wars in this sequence. In the first 2 wars, the ancient city of Jerusalem was captured first by the Gentile nations, led by the British, then secondly by the Jews. Will the next war, if there is one, in 2017, be one championed by the Arabs? Time alone will tell. We wait and we watch. But there is also something else that is happening in 2017 which may very well tie in with the 50-year cycle of wars over Jerusalem. In 2017, for the first time in 7,000 years, Virgo, the Virgin, will be hovering over Jerusalem, just as Revelation chapter 12 verses 1 and 2 picture her, with the sun at her head, the moon at her feet, and giving birth. The planet Jupiter you see there is known as the King Star. Incredibly, during 2017, the King Star will hover around the womb of Virgo, the Virgin, for 9 months. Revelation says that when the woman gives birth, the dragon, Satan, will hate her and try to destroy her and her offspring. But she is given a place to run in the wilderness. The woman we know is Israel. Now in Zechariah 14 we read of a war over the city of Jerusalem. And during that war, half of the city is taken, and the people of the city, and maybe the outskirts, we don't know, have to go into exile. Does this tie in with Revelation chapter 12, where Virgo, the virgin, Israel, has to go into exile and is given the wings of an eagle to fly into the wilderness? Is this what we are going to see in 2017? Remember, the 50-year cycles state that in 2017 there is every possibility of a battle over Jerusalem. This time it will be the Arabs who will seem to conquer. And this would tie in with Revelation chapter 12 verses 1 and 2, where the Satan attacks the woman and tries to kill her and her offspring, and she escapes into the wilderness. This ties in with Zechariah 14, where the battle is over Jerusalem and the inhabitants have to go into exile. It is exactly the same picture. Are we seeing here a prediction of a war over Jerusalem, where the inhabitants have to go into exile for their own safety, for their own lives? You know, many of us have said that there will be a 7-year period. Halfway through, the tribulation starts. Now, some people also say that Jesus fulfilled the first half of that 7-year period with his 3.5-year ministry, and that Satan and the Antichrist will also have a 3.5-year ministry, if you will, which is the tribulation. So are we in fact not looking for 7 years, but for 3.5 that begin with this battle over Jerusalem in 2017? Or will the final 3.5 years begin before 2017? As I say, we watch, we wait, and we'll see.